Yeah, sorry, Mayor, one more time. If you guys can start, we weren't able to hear you.
So, Sean Nichols, new resident.
Very nice to meet you.
Hey, where'd you come from, Sean? I'm still in San Francisco. I know here back and forth.
Nice. How do you like it?
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Been up here a while.
Mike, the screen is still showing, meeting will begin at 1:30.
Which section?
Sorry about that. I wasn't able to hear you guys. Did you say the
There it
order?
is. Look at what? Oh, very nice.
And Mayor, just wanted to note that the finance director holds his absence.
Thank you so much.
Excuse.
Okay. Are you able to hear me, David?
All right, we'll move into public comments. The public may speak on any item not listed on the agenda at this time. You can bring anything special is not on the agenda. Great. Is there any? Who's under the attendees, David? I know they're supposed to be here, but we'll see. Perfect.
Staff.
All right, we don't have any written communications. So I'll move into new business under E. Board's discussion preparation for the May 22nd, 2024 town hall meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Chair. This item was agendized in response to council's direction to coordinate and schedule a town hall meeting at the May 22nd city council meeting. The city council meeting will be structured as first, it's kind of a general business, a typical city council agenda, wherein the council will then convene the regular meeting and transition to a town hall meeting. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, you can consider it kind of a workshop. The purpose of the meeting is discuss consideration of a special revenue measure on the ballot. And it's an opportunity for the community and you know, members of our community, residents, businesses, stakeholders to provide input and feedback on a potential revenue measure. The council received a presentation wherein they received the survey results of a voter survey on two separate but distinct revenue measures. One, a potential sales tax increase, as well as a proposed parcel tax. And you got voter sentiment on both of those measures. And the intent of the town hall meeting is to kind of discuss those in more detail. There's some options relative to a sales tax, and that could go anywhere from 1/4 cent up to 1 cent. And you can consider that as kind of named for it as a district tax, because unlike general sales tax, the entirety of that percentage it goes to the city rather than being allocated amongst all the state entities. But kind of just in preparation for the meeting, we thought it would be advantageous to
Excuse me, Mike said turn the volume on. You can hardly hear. Okay.
here.
Is that what you meant?
Testing. Can you hear us, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't able to hear you at the beginning of the meeting. That's why the screen wasn't off. I didn't know we called the order. 1:30, and I got the attendance already, but everything's on my end now. Thank you.
The current plan is for each of our respective department heads to provide an overview of what are considered key needs by the community. An example, I'll use our police chief as an example. We know that there is a need to either construct a new public safety facility or new police station, or renovate and improve and structurally stabilize our existing station, both of which require extraordinary resources that we don't presently have. And so that's been identified as a significant need. Likewise, within our public works department, we had a report commissioned. Actually, it's required by the state, so it wasn't discretionary, but to look at literally all the streets in the city, characterize them, give them a rating and identify a cost associated with improving them to kind of a key metric. And that we know from community feedback, of course, council is keenly aware that our roads are in very poor condition. And it requires a significant commitment of financial resources in order to fix those. And so that's just two examples of kind of key needs in addition to that, just our overall financial picture is one where we haven't seen the growth in revenue, but we've certainly seen the growth in costs. Just like private businesses, we've been affected by inflation, and the cost of doing business has just increased, and our revenues have not kept pace with that, despite our best efforts to for cost control. Noting that our most recent audit, we did come back with a surplus, but that part of that is, some of those are just deferred projects that they get completed and just get moved in the next fiscal year. But it's a trend that we need to look at. Part of the conversation here today is just to get your feedback and input in preparation for that meeting. So any direction you'd like to give us or feedback, I thought it'd be valuable to have a conversation.
Thank you. So if you guys, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear your thoughts on both the bond or sales tax, or both, how we want to handle it. As to what you're thinking after the different presentations and things we've had recently. And then if start with the bond, what would you like to see as your main project for that? Sales tax the same.
Well, first of all, I'm not in favor of both. I prefer just to see the sales tax. Because that's gonna have long tentacles down into Santa Rosa, the car industry will finally start getting some sales tax revenue for that. Bruce Royce goes out and buys a couple new pickup trucks, for his big rigs, we get sales tax revenue on that. So I think it's gonna be pretty significant. I think my main goal is at some point, the new police station. I've been saying that for 22 years, but I'd really like to see that. But right now, I think it's more focused on the streets and the infrastructure that we have. That's really failing. I heard on the news today that I think President Biden had passed something about eliminating lead pipes anymore across the country. So I'm not sure if another grant's going to be coming out for that, but for now, I just like to see the sales tax. At some point, yes, we do need a new police station. We need it now, quite frankly. And I'd like to see a tax measure for a bond issue for that.
Yeah, because of sales tax can't get the police station.
It can't do both. There's not enough, and we can't really burden our constituency with double tax like that. But I think one thing, no matter which way you do your presentation, David, I think it needs to be focused on the average household expense, how it's going to increase with that tax, and what it's going to generate for the city. I know you and I have talked about that from time to time. At least one good road project a year. Actually two, one was shovel in the ground, one on the drawing board for next year. And we just keep hopscotching and get that done. So I just think it's important that you have some information. What does it cost to do a street repair? Now granted, there's a lot of them that are, I couldn't even tell you, Antonio was my favorite. I mean, that thing is just absolutely awful. I'm surprised it's not a dirt road by now. And then the whole Tarman section, I think, needs to be redone, but I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get in that meeting. Thank you.
Yep. Now, we've had these discussions about roads and how much you can do with the money. Since they haven't done roads since the early 80s, we have a lot to catch up on. But it's an average of about $200,000 per road, $100,000, $110,000 for a short one. I had a contractor give an estimate recently. and that's to do bare minimums. And so David actually had the numbers for what the sales tax could generate if we went, you know, quarter cent, half cent, or 3/4 cent. And it was actually surprisingly better than I was anticipating from our bond advisor. So David, you can kind of give an idea of the approximate from sales tax that we have, and then we can maybe do it off the half a cent.
Yeah, sure. And I'll give a little bit of background on this. So
Thank you.
we contract with what's called Avenue Insights and Analytics. They are a sales tax consultant that works directly with the state on the tax data. We give them the confidential permission to access that data. And so they look at the sales tax data by a category or business segment. They're generally broken down into what is it? Six categories: general retail, food products, transportation, construction, and then B2B, and then there's some miscellaneous. And so they looked at if the voters approved, quarter cent, half cent, 3/4, 1% sales tax rate increase, what that would look like. And the one benefit of what we refer to as a district sales tax is not only does it tax or generate revenue from sales within the city, as Councilmember and Vice Chair pointed out, it also captures sales outside the city where the point of destination for those purchases are within the city. So there's some capture rates between outside and inside, and the thinking is roughly half of the capture rate would come from purchases outside the city, and maybe it's more like 55 and 45 from within the city. So under their projections, again, looking at kind of a conservative number for a half cent sales tax, is about $1.1 million. And that's a combination of that's the 575 of that is outside sales. So looking at those purchases, if someone buys a vehicle or a washing machine or something that that is a capital equipment outside the city, where the point of destination of that resource or that asset, the tax would flow back to the city rather than just go, most of which goes off the state. There's just kind of a perspective that when folks pay sales tax, it all goes to the city, and we know that that's not the case for either property or sales tax, unfortunately. The majority goes elsewhere.
David, could you share, I know Todd and I know this, but could you share with us the current sales tax structure, how much we actually get out of that, as opposed to the referendum sales tax, where we would get 100% of that sales tax?
Yeah, so right now we gross just a little over $1 million, so about 1.1. So in essence, it would double the amount of tax.
Yeah, so out of every dollar I pay in sales tax under the current system, how much does the city get percentage wise?
Percentage wise, I think we get somewhere around, well, typically it's 8.25. We get 1% of the 8.25.
Yeah. Whereas with this special tax, we get 100% of it.
Right.
We wouldn't have to divvy it up with the county or the state.
That's right.
Which is really important, I think, because so much of the tax dollars that we collect here within the city, we never reap the benefit.
Yeah, or paid by residents or businesses go elsewhere.
Yeah.
One thing I would want to make sure that we stress to the town hall is what an actual cost out of pocket to a family is. If you do the math on a 0.5%, which is the middle, road, And say they spent $50,000 in Cloverdale, it cost them $250 for the year. That's what half a cent sales tax goes to. So $250 on, if you spent $50,000. Most families in our town don't spend anywhere near that. And so it's not, it sounds like so much, like you think you're spending a ton of money on these sales taxes, but you know, a quarter cent is $125 on 50,000. 3/4 of a cent is, you know, you can keep on 375, but it's still, it's not that much for 50,000. And with our median income, way less than that, it's not going to really truly affect people that they think it does.
Well, I prefer to see us go with the 3/4, to be honest with you.
I mean, only going to one, I want to push the 3/4.
If we go for a half, and if we're fortunate and it passes, maybe with I don't know, 70% of the vote, we should be so lucky, but then we're kicking ourselves that we should have raised it a little bit. We can't keep going back.
The sales tax is only 50% plus 1, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So I agree that if we're going to do it, we need to go with the 3/4.
We don't want to go back every couple of years.
And then we just need to tell them we have roads, we have them listed by priority. You know, and not everything is going to get brand new, you know, infrastructure underneath. It just is what it is. You want better roads for the next 30 years, this is how you get it. You have to plan it a little bit and you can get a lot of repaving done. But we also, the city, have to realize that we're not going to be doing 100-year fixes here. You know, sometimes you gotta, you know, lipstick on the pig a little bit. And that's not my theory and the way I'd like to do things. However, there's so many roads here that we'd never get it done. And 60 years of not maintaining them.
David, what was the amount for the 0.75? Did you have?
Yeah, I have that number, and we'll have this, this data during our presentation on the 22nd. So you can kind of look at it this way: a quarter cent is 587,000. Well, that's optimistic, but conservative 550,000. Half cent is 1.1, so just double that, and if you just triple it, it's 1.6, 1,650,000.
That's a lot of room.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of look at you know, some cities that I think have done, you know, well, I should characterize, most cities are in the same position we are with declining road infrastructure. We're not an outlier. Though many of our roads are older, you know, we're definitely in where we see the poorest road conditions tend to be some of our older neighborhoods. But the way cities who have done a better job in addressing this is by committing to an annual program, overlays, or maybe less often reconstructs, but definitely doing the overlays to preserve what you have and committing to an expenditure every year where you just continue to make that progress and getting projects done. And the community can see that because you can have a list, you stick to the list and you get it done. And you know, we commit a certain amount of time every year by staff resources to, you know, moving that forward, putting it out to bid, or you know, getting the informal bids, or however we want to do it, or allowed to do it. But that's where I think it's you make incremental progress, but you do it, and people see it, and you know, the council can kind of choose the next neighborhood. So there's a little bit of opportunity. There's an opportunity for community members to weigh in on who gets priority next. Do
you want to have a slide that discusses, do we want to try to go for both measures? So we get consensus on that, and then a slide that talks about what rate, if we need the sales tax, we want to go for?
Yeah, I think we should start bringing up both together so that we can be voted for or against at that point. And then your slide deck is going to have to adjust. Because if we're going to go for, let's just say we're going just for the sales tax, I want to go for the 3/4. If we're going for both, I wouldn't go any higher than half, because I don't want to overburden and have people say no.
Also, I would like to see, and David, we've spoken about this, some type of an oversight committee that meets to make sure that this, tax measure, is being utilized for what we specified it would be utilized for. I know we don't technically, well, I don't want to say we don't have to, but if it goes into the general fund without a specific purpose, we could use it for anything. But nobody wants to pay a sales tax to better the roads and all of a sudden have that money diverted elsewhere. So that's my own concern. How do we assure the public that the money will be used for what we say it's?
Yeah, and typically we'll wanna, we highly recommend including oversight by an independent review board appointed by council to review both the revenue and the expenditures of that additional tax revenue once it's collected. Some other issues are kind of needs that would be identified as part of putting on the ballot measures. Does it have a term? Or is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or do we propose something without a term? Again, the rate is going to be a critical component of that, but then we want to bring it back so that council would consider the specific language that would be placed on the ballot.
I'm not in favor of the sunset on it. I'd like to see it in perpetuity. Maybe you go to the voters once and, you don't have to keep going back for the renewal.
Well, and if you think about it, if we did 3 roads a year, it would take us 26, 27 years to catch up. And by then, you're recirculating what's good now. So, and as inflation goes up, this is one of those things that is just going to maintain at that point. So I think you do it without a sunset.
I also think that that review panel could maybe be limited to our accountant. When they come in and do our financial statements every year, let them give us a snapshot of what that money was used for, if that's possible. You think it is?
I think it's up to the council to discuss how they want that language written into the ballot measure. If you want an independent auditor, it's just making sure that when we council approves the contract for the auditor, that you make sure that service is in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I also think that, on the ballot, it needs to have more than roads listed, because there's going to be general maintenance and things like that. So say we go in and the pipe to the hydrant is broken and we fix it, it needs to be done out of the same roads money or however. But, I don't want to put us into a corner knowing our goal is every penny to go towards it. However, I don't want the auditor to come back and say, you guys mismanaged your money because you bought, paint for the curb and that's not the road. That's a curb one, it's something stupid. So.
Well, I don't want to see all of a sudden we're getting increases in COLA that are above and beyond.
Correct.
I don't want to see it all going to salaries. I mean, nobody wants that.
No. And I would like to make sure that we say this is not salary money. You see, this does not go towards, same as bonds, because bonds aren't allowed to. I would do the same thing.
Did we confuse you enough?
No, that's all good. That's all good feedback. I think, more than anything, we want to make sure we present, the picture that the subcommittee would like to see to cover, the critical points that I think that we need to cover for the purposes of bringing this back for ultimate action, because it's really a town hall. So it's not going to be agendized with a specific action, but you're going to give us direction and we'll bring it back.
Something else that I think that we should put on there for this is renewable or sustainable energy sources. It pulled really high on what people wanted here in town. And I think it should be listed on there as something we could possibly spend money on if we needed to. you know, I'm not big on going out and spending money on solar and everything because it at best breaks you even at this point in life. However, it's just one of those things that if 10 years down the road and technology is so much better, there's something that can help us out with our general fund money to add to it or pay for things. And that's, I think, something to think about.
It seems like, we have a community that really supports our park system and their sports leagues. So, you know, adding that is, to, you know, continue to work on building a rec program could also you know, garner some support from younger members of our community.
Yeah, the development of downtown, you say things like that. It was big, that pulled high. That's good on that one, because that one would cover everything. And I would say something about modernize or modernize facilities, city facilities. Just in case something pops up. Or, you know, maybe we need to buy something for these paving jobs or something, then we can put that in there.
Equipment. Or
Yeah. I don't want it to sound like we're trying to be shady in any way, but I also don't want to kind of reform. And the other bonds I've done, we have a committee that would make the recommendations and they would go to the full board to make it. So it just saves everything else we do. It's pretty efficient. And then especially because we already have the road priorities. So that'll make it go pretty quick. They pick out their top 5 and bang them out, top 5 and bang them out. Keep moving. But I think we really need to stress how much it will cost people and what they get bang for their buck. And also, how many sales tax do we have here in Cloverdale currently?
0.
How many does everyone else have?
multiple.
1+. We're the only city that doesn't have a sales tax measure on the ballot or on the books. So it's good to know that.
Windsor might be the only middle. I think there's 2.
But that they're, at least let people know that
Yeah.
most of them are and higher than what we're going to be proposing.
And we have that chart too, showing different sales tax rates for the various cities are awesome, some of which have multiple. So,
How do we get people to come to this workshop?
well, it did put a, item in the newsletter, in previous Cloverdale Connects have mentioned it. Now, I know someone will be aware that it is available, or that it's been scheduled for the 22nd. But we can put something on our website to, you know, just continue.
Maybe Nina can help us with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we could get Nina to shoot out a chamber of events.
And if Mike makes a flyer, I can put it out there as well.
And how about Nexo? Are we allowed to use Nexo for something like this?
Next door?
No, next.
Nexo.
As a community alert.
Yeah, okay. That would be good. We could do that, like maybe a week ahead of time, so we can plan it and for the next few days leading up to that date would be good.
Like Angelo, Cranston, see what they know.
Yeah, I'll let him know as well.
Get it on social media.
That's why I said, give me a flyer on it. I'll hit all the key points. All the key agitators. So be great.
David, with that item,
Anything else from you? What's that?
I was just checking with that item, we were talking about having, because we have some regular business for that meeting, so we were gonna have it be a regular council meeting and turn into a town hall afterwards, if that's,
That's correct. Well, yeah, it is. And along with that, we also are supposed to have a presentation
right.
by the supervisor. So if he's still has the ability and desire to come give that presentation, knowing it's going to be a town hall, he'll be on there as well.
Cool.
Yeah,
What's he coming?
Potter Valley Project, supposed to give us a presentation on why we're supposed to support it.
And I'll follow. I haven't, since our meeting this morning, I'll
An
follow.
hour ago.
Yeah.
And then the library is also planning on giving a presentation that night.
Okay. Well, if we can make this the last item, it'd be great so that we can transition over, sorry. What do you guys think? Any public comments?
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So you had said point of destination sales tax. So if I bought a car in Santa Rosa, that tax money on that car would come to the city.
That's correct.
That is really important to mention
Yes.
because all our neighbors are buying cars.
Right.
We bought a car, you know, was earlier, but that would be, and I didn't mean not to disclose this, but I'm here with the CDC. So, you know, I know what they're thinking, I know what they're talking about, and we thought the commercial base here is pretty small.
Yeah,
You know, but how, you know, how much does it impact them in particular? But that outside sales at 55% of it would be good something.
right.
Absolutely.
And I do agree with you, Gus. I think that's, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say, I agree that the higher rate is probably a better one. I'm in San Francisco and I've got to tell you, roads are a mess. This is paradise compared to San Francisco.
Can you stand up in town hall? Multiple times.
But yeah, I think it's an ongoing thing because it's all been delayed every, city it's done that delay. And
No, we appreciate it. That's,
And you know, we do get quite, having built here, we do get questions about, well, what about the HOAs that are here? What about them? I don't think any one of them or I don't think that was written into a long-term plan, so I don't think that's gonna happen, and I think there's an assumption that happens in some of the newer developments, it doesn't.
yeah, HOAs don't cover the roads as far as I know. Any of yours.
One of the other things I'd like us to maybe consider, I don't know that it really has to be discussed at this point, but you know, my pet peeve is when we have a developer come in and dig into the streets and they dig that little trench, 5-foot trench, and then they fill it in. And 6 months later, a year later, we got a pond. You know, I really, we're spending this much money on the streets. I'd really like to see us have the developers cut, I don't know, maybe, Todd, you know better than me, maybe a 50-foot section, or at least repave that much of it. So that it's not a bump in the road at some point. So, you know, it's just something to think about. when we
It's
do
definitely
this.
something to think about as we
Yeah.
get through this to set up new rules under planning.
But I think that's in our building code.
Yeah, well, in the fucking our code,
Yeah.
public works.
I'd like to see us expand that footage.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Is there anything else that you feel you want the sales tax to be used for?
Me?
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, as we get down the road, I'm sure there's going to be more, but now this is.
Any other comments from anyone?
Now, can you add to that later? Let's say you can't.
Put in for another sales tax, absolutely. But whatever we say this is going to be used for, it's what it has to be used for. And it's audited through that. And people will call you on it. And they've done that, so. All right, well, good direction, David. Do you need anything else? So we can help with?
No, I think that the feedback's great. I think it gives us a clear direction. We want to promote the town hall. And then we have some vehicles to do that, and also just how we propose the presentation to council and break it down by both the sales tax and the parcel tax, and what those can fund, and you know, really identifying again our list of needs by department, so the council kind of has a perspective where, you know, where some of the funding would be proposed to be used to cover.
So should we discuss if council said they wanted to support the bond measure as well? Should we discuss that as to what we would like on that, so you're prepared for that?
Sure. I mean, what I hear.
I think the only difference is adding in public infrastructure and modernizing police station.
And I think we're planning to kind of give as much as we can, a comprehensive overview of our needs, and then, you know, if council then wants to talk about, well, how could we address those needs through these different measures, and we can talk about that.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on. Discussion Lyme and tick-borne diseases awareness month request.
Okay, we received a request from Councilmember Morgenstern to add a proclamation to the council agenda. May is Lyme and tick-borne disease awareness month, and there is a proclamation on the May 8th council agenda. As was discussed, well, first by council, was the issue of proclamations was referred to the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee for review, so that there's a mechanism to discuss proclamations before they get placed on the council agenda. Remember, this subcommittee reviewed the list and we kind of stuck to, well, I say we, the subcommittee recommended kind of sticking with the not adding any new proclamations, but sticking with the kind of the historical proclamations that have come before the council on an annual basis. This is a new one. In the direction of the subcommittee was to put it on the Finance, Admin, and Police. Now, normally we would try to, in the draft policy, the policy was never approved, was to have those proclamations be requested, 30 days in advance, so that there was plenty of time to review and discuss. In this case, the request came from a council member, came on short notice, so it was brought here just for the initial review, noting it's on the council agenda. So not really more to say about it, other than I know, and Councilmember Morris, I know she's listening in, that it's a matter of public health, and this is opportunity to bring awareness to a matter that doesn't get a lot of discourse in the public arena, is Lyme disease and the impacts it has. So I think there's interest in developing some additional public information around Lyme and tick-borne disease, and bring awareness with proclamations to start. So there's a lot of information out there, and it's kind of wading through that information and deciding how we as a city want to provide public information to the community about enhancing awareness, and what are some of the issues that be concerned about. But I think with our parks in particular, it's an opportunity just again to educate and provide awareness, so that we can reduce Lyme disease in our community.
As a country town, I think it's a good idea, a great idea. All our parks and our hills that we're always in, even our neighboring homes, even up into Del Webb and everywhere that borders these hills, it's a big issue. The only thing I would ask is that no matter who is asking for these proclamations, they follow our new policy that was created by this council itself that says 30-day notice from here on out. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like, number one, to make sure that Councilmember Morgenstern gets a look at this and she's comfortable with it. And then secondly, maybe some brochures from the county. They may have brochures about this that they can send out to us, that we could have on the lobby down here, and maybe in time for the meeting. I doubt it, but maybe in time for the meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, and to your point, Councilmember Walter, the request came from Councilmember Morgenstern. I coordinated with her directly on the language. There was some sample language that was provided, so put it in our standard form. And I could kind of do things. Your idea, I think, of developing, kind of a public information brochure would be on target. That's where you're seeking some guidance, from public health professionals on, what's the appropriate message. And I mean, there's a lot of information. Just want to make sure it's accurate and it reflects the best practices in terms of Lyme and tick-borne disease. And then likewise, there was also concurrent requests to our park staff to develop signage for our parks.
Well, and on top of that, I know that your city clerk and your park supervisor have been working on signage, not just for the ticks and fleas, and things like that, but also for rattlesnakes and all the different little predators that we have in our hills for those parks. And I think that's a great idea. I think it's the smart thing to do.
So no action, Chair, just again, given the direction from the subcommittee to bring these back on this agenda, that's why it's placed there. But we'll see, you'll see, if you haven't already, you'll see it on your council agenda.
Yes, sir. All right, anything from the public on that? Great. All right, moving into standing items, update on Measure P cannabis report.
Okay, included in your packet is a copy of the most current Measure P cannabis report. And pull it up real quick here. And we did receive correspondence from Miss Lisa Sullivan, I think, who's present at the meeting, in regards to that report. And yeah, and I think one of the questions revolved around, in particular, the reporting metric for February of 2024. I think I did receive a report from our finance and HR analyst on the amount paid by Red Door Remedies, and it looks like, just from a timing perspective, we received the payment on January 31st, and we received the payment on March 4th. And that March 4th would not have been captured on the February. It would have been for February, but
deposited it.
it just didn't capture it in that month. So that it's just a report. So where the payment was captured in March
Right.
rather than in February. And so that it's a timing issue, and that happens more often than not.
That's understandable, I'm sure. Just what was shocking to me was the amount is almost the amount that we're paying, just us, in taxes. So are other businesses not paying, or?
I don't think we should be saying when people are late or not on their bills.
Absolutely.
Correct, but it's blaringly obvious, this is public record, right? And I mean, we all know cannabis has totally, sales have gone down like crazy. I mean, we're feeling it too. I think I would like to see some sort of accounting quarterly statements for us at Red Door showing applied payments. I mean, I have the records, but I want to make sure that they're getting applied correctly. So it's just really alarming to see that those amounts are basically, you know, we pay anywhere from 3 to 5 over the years, depending on sales. And it's just, some of the months, you know, it looks like one business is paying.
Yeah, and I think to that request, the chair, our finance director, as I mentioned, she's absent. She's happens to be on vacation this week. Don't have any problem with her sitting down, and she may have to redact the other payments, but we collect them actually in our own. We have a separate checking account, so it's very easy to highlight the payments that are made and by whom.
I mean, if we're depositing cash, I'm bringing it to the bank.
Yeah.
But if we're paying by check, I'm dropping it here.
Right.
And we always pay by the last day of the month. For the previous month.
Which skews the numbers.
Right,
doesn't it?
right.
Absolutely, and it's not just this tax reporting that we're looking at. Please know that it, you know, looking at the state, there's also a couple of issues. This was just, no kidding, like the 4th hit to the head being taken in a couple of weeks.
Right, CDTFA, FTB, I mean, at least those, we can go onto our portal and we can look and make sure payments were
They've
applied.
got it.
Not necessarily in a timely manner, but
But the
they're there.
ours got to you, and I think, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to say it, we really need some quarterly meetings for just your cannabis businesses. We've had one, we keep asking. I know I'm not the only one in this, because we do talk to the other business owners in town. It's a big struggle, not to say that there's not struggles all over, But I think for this in particular, we might, even if it's twice a year, it would just be really nice to have all of us in one room. Gives us the opportunity to ask some questions where we're usually left with, trying to figure it out on our own. And a lot of changes have been made, especially within the last 18 months, as far as the state is concerned, where we're at. So not sure when she's coming back from vacation, but would love to get on Susie's schedule.
Absolutely. And I'll ask, I think our staff member here, it's Shannon. Shannon, if we can work on finding a date and you don't have to answer here as an attendee. But let's coordinate on getting a date set up with Susie to review the deposits.
Okay, Jamie, I'll send you an email and see what your availability is and look at Susie's calendar and we can get something scheduled.
Beautiful, thank you.
Well, you know, I don't think you're any different than any other business. If a particular tax, bed tax, whatever it may be, is due in April, it's always paid the last day of the month. I mean, everybody just does that as a business. So maybe we do the reporting on this report as of the second of the month, as opposed to at the end of the quarter. As I mean, if we didn't do it for April 30th, maybe we close the report for May the 2nd, for example.
Yeah, so
To capture all the reports made in April. Is that part of the problem that I'm hearing?
well, I think what's happening is the Measure P payments are made monthly. Usually for the month preceding, it's
Right.
usually done at or on or around the last day of the month. In some cases, when this subcommittee meeting date to get that report, because we were publishing it on Thursday, just the way the dates fall, it may not have captured the deposits that were made maybe that afternoon.
Right.
Right, so, and we, in some cases, Susie will update the report if between when it's published and when it's, when the meeting is, but because it's, you know, like, for instance, we had our meeting, I think it was April 1st, in some cases, payments were still getting, processed, so it's just a timing
Yeah,
of when the report's prepared and when the payments came in, and then if it was a day off, it goes into the next month versus the month that it was intended for, so it's kind of a timing issue.
we also have some ideas how to change the direction of this little chart. Noticing that COVID, right, is awesome, that we've taken a 45%
People have
hit.
money during COVID.
Industry-wide, we've taken a 45% hit. And like I said, your brethren at the state are getting real creative in a way, and I'm brutally surprised they haven't come back to any of the participating cities. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. There are some issues at the state, and just, it's a frustrating time to be in our industry.
From some cities.
Yes,
Right?
they were
There-
providing some equity programs to particular cities. They were,
Are you guys aware of that? I don't.
so we're doing our best to like raise our hands and get closer and closer to being in the room with the state. Excuse me, I have a question. It's been beneficial. Just last week, Diana sat down with Metric, was the state kind of tagging system that everything's, and the DCC was there, so she had the opportunity to turn around and hi there. At least they're willing to talk to us. I won't say that the tax agencies are willing to speak with us. It took 3 days for us to get through to tax and fee. And she had no information, and their answer is both CDTFA and tax and fee have gotten rid of their accounting departments. And they're now hiring customer service reps right off the street with little to no
Reading from a script.
any type of providing them any type of experience whatsoever. It's difficult, but like I said, we do have some ideas about how to turn that around. So
Are you also requesting a meeting with staff once a quarter here?
we've asked a few times, and granted, I know
We have.
you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
But it would be really great, I think, to get these businesses together in one room.
Is it needed quarterly, or can it be
Even twice a year would be great, would be awesome, and I don't know if that would be better, like, say, January than June, I don't know where the best time would be, probably wherever your schedule would allow would make. It just, after, like we said, after talking to the local businesses, it would be amazing to at least be able to be in the same room together and ask the questions that we need to ask.
Is this something you would want to put on the June calendar, or is it too soon? For the finance?
Do you want to have that here as part of
I
this
think,
meeting?
I think part of this meeting, and it could be, it's gonna be one of your only discussion. At least how we've done it in the past, I believe. It was
Was there like a standalone one?
Did we?
Maybe, I don't know, I don't know.
Do you want to add one more meeting to your list?
No, I don't.
Let's be honest here.
Come on, we know you love these.
I mean, maybe it's just that we have our regular finance and then we just convene it to cannabis.
Absolutely that.
I don't know that this room is big enough.
What's that? Some
We squeezed in last time.
Agenda items you want on there?
You got it.
So that would be on the June 3rd, right, David? That worked out. That's the date I'm looking at for the first Monday.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You got it.
So we can try that. If it doesn't work, then we'll move it out.
That's awesome.
But
Thank you.
So then we'll just get with Susie and figure out.
Yeah, she'll sit down with you with the
It's
state, with the bank
shocking, like,
statement.
to see that, you know? 2021 were great, and yeah, we know that sales have definitely been down.
You said we had thoughts.
Always.
anything else? Okay. Any update on the water rate revenue tracking worksheet?
Just included in your packet is a copy of the tracking worksheet, which shows the historical trends for the last 5 fiscal years, including the current fiscal year. You can kind of see we're turning a little bit up for this year on a year-over-year basis. Not as significantly as we hoped, but I think part of it's a reflection of the amount of rain we've received and less water use has been necessary. You know, we're our own customer, and we're only recently turning on water at our parks. So you'll start seeing that in the water sales. We have to pay our water enterprise. But again, it's just to kind of get a continued pulse on water rate revenue.
Conservation costs for nothing. Any comments or questions? Update on the grant writing.
Yeah, it's, they didn't include we're working on getting the tracker updated, we put a fairly significant amount of effort into, grants this fiscal year. And a lot of the work is currently just managing those grants. The active grants include the DWR multi-benefit grant, which was $3.2 million. We're working on the grant agreements for the recycled water feasibility study, which looks like it would be 550 federal funded and 350 state funded. We're waiting to hear on the raise grant application that we collaborated with SMART. And we're working on implementing the CDBG grant for sidewalks on First Street. And we expect the council or the board will take action on the award of funds for CDBG, award of CDBG funds for fiscal year 24-25. Probably sometime this month. And we don't expect anything to change based on the recommendation that would fund ADA improvements at the Scouts.
What was that dollar amount again, Kevin?
I think it was 260. It was somewhere around around there. And that's for ADA stuff, but we included in the scope like the restroom, potentially some of the kitchen stuff. So it's a really good start with the Scouts having. We can't do everything, but you know, we included windows and so
Scouts Cabin is the building in our middle of our city park. it was the old Boy Scouts cabin. They still use it, but it hasn't been updated in 60 years. So we're looking at this more of a community and some that people use rents that they can pass. Let's see, what's next is what director report. What's that mean?
Oh, it was under finance, so this, it's really a director report on budget. And so just a quick background summary. With council, we had a budget workshop wherein we presented the draft budget and looked at an overview of the key funds that comprise the budget, wherein you received a presentation by staff on, any significant changes, updates, or, discretionary projects by department. Council gave us direction to add a list of items to the budget, some of which were funded by the general fund, others were funded by enterprise funds or special revenue fees, including, in some cases, impact fees or major and parks funds. So we now have, the budget has been updated. It's, I have a link and I can send that out to council for, so you can look at the online budget book. Based on the council's direction to add the discretionary projects. If you recall, we had operational deficit within the fiscal year 24-25 of 1,000,000, about 227,000. And it's now 1,325,000 with a projected fund balance at the end of next fiscal year of just under 6.2 million. So I'll get this sent out to council. Our plan is to bring the budget forward at your first meeting in June, so council can make any final adjustments, tweaks, and certainly can adopt it with direction, or have us bring it back for one final review at the second meeting in June.
Yeah. Yes. You and I have already spoken, the ideas that I have, so. Thank you. Any other comments? Hopefully we can make that bloom a little better. Okay, next is the R3C.
Yeah, so the Russian River Reuse Collaborative, they're still working on setting a date for the next meeting. One of the components that, one of the elements of that planning effort was the town of Windsor is working on establishing what's referred to as a biosolids collaborative, where cities can take their biosolids from their treatment plants to a common location. One of the aspects of that work is the transportation costs of the biosolid material. And council approved a letter of support for their grant application. Windsor has provided a draft memorandum of agreement that would kind of more formally establish the biosolids collaborative. It just got it on Friday of last week, and we'll be having our city attorney look at this in more detail before we bring it forward for this committee's review. Just an update.
Great.
We'll have to understand, what's the impact to the city, and what's what are the potential benefits. I think it's primarily it's kind of in a way, I think, a commitment to bring our biosolids to that location, which would help with their feasibility.
I'd just like to look at cost. Make sure it's not worse than where we are. But anyone else? Anything? Code enforcement activities. What do you think you're gonna skip out on us?
We're going. If you don't know what it's.
Otherwise, I haven't been there by yourself.
My phone is gonna blow up here in a second.
Code enforcement activities. Anything going on?
I don't care anything you want to report
Not
out.
really, I think we're gonna be winding down and reassigning that back to Raquel to take most urgent cases. He does a pretty good job at it, so we can go from there.
I'm still not in favor of us cutting that position, because now we've reversed it back to a complaint-driven program as opposed to somebody who now being a bit more proactive with it. So I'm just make that statement. But I know the rest of the council said get it out of the budget, so.
Technically, it should be complaint driven now, but yeah, I never say that's.
We all agree, or we gotta figure out ways to save $1.2 million,
No, I get it, I understand.
and it'll be worse after negotiations.
Our employees drive the streets of Cloverdale, a lot of our employees every day. When they go by my house, at the end of my street, there's a basketball group that's been sitting in the street for probably about 4 years now, and I'm not exaggerating. I hit it when I was driving my motorhome, and scraped the top of my motorhome. I haven't had that motorhome in 3 years. And, Public Works can't fill a form out. The streets department can't fill a form out and say, this has been here for a while, check it out, or
Do
just.
you want us to take care of that, Gus?
I'm sorry?
You want us to take care of it? What's the address?
No, I don't want you to take it out, but there needs to be a reporting mechanism. Somebody needs to be looking at, it's not good to pit neighbor against neighbor for the controversy. We've got motorhomes, 2 of them sitting up next to Ace Hardware up on the hill. I couldn't tell you how long they've been there, and yet we don't enforce it. So now all of a sudden, Raphael's gonna do a complaint driven, and there's gonna be no comments. So.
Maybe it's something that if we see the need again or more, then we can put on the public works subcommittee and have something, an idea just brought there.
Yeah.
Bring it down.
I'm not talking about him going out and measuring grass blades to make sure that they're only 3 inches. I'm talking about blatant, voids in our code.
It's not a bad idea to have for your employees to be able to fill something out to give to Raphael.
The police department has that now.
Yep.
I think Councilman, Chief Paula instituted that. Just a little slip for them to fill out and hand it to the department head to go out and look at something.
Do you have that, Chief?
I'm sorry?
I know that's the chief we had.
Okay, that's another bitch, you know.
And that's how it was previously of having the current code enforcement officer was, the complaints reported to Rafael. He was very, very dutiful at, writing a letter and often, that resulted in a positive response. I think the key difference with the current group is we updated our code to provide a little more punitive response, which people sometimes tend to respond to punitive actions versus a more nicely written code enforcement letter. So when we get compliance, it would sometimes take multiple letters before they comply, but
And sometimes a little attorney money too. Sometimes, yeah.
it's just kind of it was a different approach, I think. It was a little more aggressive to get to compliance and, but didn't mean it didn't work. It was a slower versus a faster model.
Moving on to the chief's report. Who's chief?
Quick update on new employees, the one officer graduating the academy in June, June 14th to be exact, at Union. And we have one, and she just finished her background, Officer Lopez, he is starting the academy July 22nd. It should be done December 8th-ish, and then patrolling Cloverdale on FTO December, mid-December. Right?
Who's the one that's graduating in June? Who's that?
Officer Bono, she is in the Weed Academy. She lives at Adelaide.
And the new fellow that's starting, are they Cloverdalians?
He is, he lives off of Lake Street, and works at Fox.
Oh, good.
Is he bilingual, Chris?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I asked if he was bilingual.
Yeah, that's it. Good. I like it when we hire the local fellows.
He's a good, great kid.
So with staffing, that puts you over at this point, right?
That puts us right at,
Right at.
those are things over.
I'm getting, no, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I know how this works.
Then, minus two.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of 10 officers with the two. Right.
Yeah.
Of which one would then could be fully dedicated to SRO services
Yep.
at that point.
Yep. You know, and that'll happen April-ish.
Perfect.
You know, Chief, I've told you before, I've mentioned to you that I really like to see foot patrols in the downtown,
Yes.
in Eber and Furwood Plaza. Where an officer can just get out and walk up one side of the street, down the other, stick his head in and say, how's it going? Yeah, he's gonna get inundated with a lot of petty type complaints, but just to show the public that we're out knocking on the doors and we're saying hello. I just think it's and I'm sure they would enjoy getting out of their cars.
Yeah.
Something that
We're always in the plaza, myself included, and
yeah, that's helps correct that situation pretty good.
Any word on the outcome of Grants Pass?
No.
Yes.
I have that as a standing item on our senior staff agenda or our city attorney, so just keeping an eye on that one.
Just waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Have you had an influx of any homeless lately compared to the past or month by month? I haven't seen too many new ones, however.
just the normal folks.
Yeah.
We move people from the LDS church. We actually arrested them because we told them to move, he didn't move.
Yeah.
He came back, he got arrested.
What's an LBS?
LDS.
Latter-day Saints.
Oh,
Something next.
And then, there's a couple that we know, we found hanging out in the back of the church when we contacted them. So,
how about Bondi, is she back? Kevin and I saw.
she's back and forth. From what I understand, she was losing her housing or lost her housing. That's so she came back to Cloverdale, she comes back to visit, and then she goes back. So I'm not sure where she's at in that.
Is she with Reach for Homes or is she?
She was, Reach Homes did get her a place. I can't say why it didn't last for her, but I haven't reached, I don't understand why it did. Sure. If it didn't,
Anything else?
That's it.
Let's see what's next on the list. There's nothing. Any future agenda items? We have the K-9 unit feasibility. I think we've had to put that on the back burner for now, right?
Yeah, we were, at your request, I know, Chief was preparing a memo. I know he had some consultation with the superintendent. It doesn't come without a pretty significant cost. But at this time, it was still in development, but based on our budget situation, if you feel comfortable directing us to remove it, we'll do so.
I think we should at this time. I know if we're doing things like talking with SR and everything else, it would be a cross-trained and then it's going to be expensive anyway. It's probably very expensive anyway, no matter how you look at it. When we were in best of times, we can talk about it again. Any other future agenda items? There you go.
I have one. This year I'd really like to see us make an effort, not that we don't now, but maybe a little more aggressively with some of the vacant properties that we have in town. And of course, the big eyesore is that car wash. We find them, we've leaned the property, there's no movement. I'd really like us to consider some type of eminent domain or receivership sale that we could push for. We've got, that is one prime piece of property for somebody to get and develop for the good of the community, bringing Tomlin Street all the way through, expanding the Boys and Girls Club, low-income housing. I mean, there's a lot of good public use for that. I think I said before, if it's eminent domain on somebody's personal residence, I'm really not in favor of that. But a commercial building that's fallen into blight, and we have an owner who is not willing to do anything, and we have a community that absolutely hates that look of that building and waste, I think we should exercise something. We also have the Canton Restaurant here. Across the street, we have the bank, we have the vacant lot. We've got a new empty store in the Druids building. Now, the Druids building, because of the rent that they charge, I really think that would be rented pretty quickly. But we need some type of non-usage fee. And I'm not talking $100 a year. I'm talking something that's gonna make those property owners go, ouch, when they see it at the end of the year. I mean, the Canton building will sit there forever. The price is ridiculous, what they're asking for, including the leaky roof. We have had the fire department go through that building, I believe, and do an inspection.
Yes.
And they've given it an okay.
Yeah.
Ken Wilson has put a lot of money into that building across the street. But nonetheless, there's nothing happening with it. So I think we should be discussing the non-usage. So I'm sure we're not the only city that has.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on this a few years back, so I have a start on it. So if you want, we can put it on this agenda, and I can, dust off what I had and see if there's any developments that have changed since then and start that process.
Yeah, I'd like to see us do that. We also now have the old Goodwill store there. But I understand that might be rented to
Possibly.
a few nonprofits in town.
Yeah.
Which will again create another 2 vacancies in right downtown. So we just need to be a little more aggressive with some of these properties.
So an update on the car wash property that I can give you. I've been meeting with an architect, real estate agent, and car wash designer owner. And they've written offers on that property. And the person will not answer the phone anymore. At one point, the car wash owner and I contacted him and he said, I will lease it to you forever. Let's go. And when the paper came out and said, okay, let's go, he turned his phone off. So I'm gonna try to bang on his door.
Do you know how he's doing? Is he doing okay?
No, it's not. He's very sick, and that's the problem. He's very sick at this point. So it could be that he can't do anything right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I see him driving every now and then. So he's not bedridden or anything, but he's at least driving through town and doing things. I just want to let you know that I've been trying to really push that one.
Well, Kevin, we're in a situation now where we lease the property for a municipal, a very small amount, in comparison to the overall value of that property. I think we're 18,000 or something like that.
And really quickly, if Kevin, you want to wrap up that thought, but we are talking about a non-agendized item right now, so
Yeah, we're
Okay,
still
I'll-
looking at things.
Come talk to us.
I just wanted to.
A future agenda item for eminent domain and for receivership on properties. I don't know if that's done in a public forum or if we do that in a closed session, seeing how we may be talking about a specific property.
Yeah, so I kind of two, I think, Councilmember Walter, you're kind of asking for 2 things. One is kind of a vacant property ordinance.
I am.
Which, and I think that, can come back as a future agenda item. I think if we're gonna talk about eminent domain on a specific property, that should be, ultimately that's acquisition, that's real property acquisition. That should be discussed in closed session. Now, it might be reported out and come back for future discussion in a subcommittee, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of legal elements to that the council will want to discuss.
Do you want me to bring that up at Wednesday's meeting, future agenda items?
That'd be a good idea.
Okay.
But we don't need to put the vacancy ordinance on. We can just bring that right back here.
Yeah.
And anything else from anyone?
Could I just say thanks to the force and Officer Nunez, who gave me some time, killed 3 birds with 1 stone. We had some wanderers, you know, Clover Springs, they couldn't do much, and there's a few doorbell ringers who might be selling things, we don't know if they really are. So he talked a little bit about that, and with the CDC, where crime exists now, if any, in Cloverdale and some of the homes, but he was really nice of him to give me the time. And I could report back easily, so it's swift.
Very nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Good to hear that.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. All right.
No,
nothing-
I think, not to belabor the point, but it's an example of community policing that we're trying to do with Cloverdale. I think everybody's on
Yes.
board with that. You know, you're part of the, police department is part of the community, part of the neighborhood. It's always good when I go see a football game, and I used to see Rudy up in the stands, you know, rooting for his kid, you know, it's just a good feeling.
No, I'm not gonna stand for it. I'm rooting for the stand for my kid.
Oh, is he on the team?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Mike will adjourn at 2:46, so we can keep talking.
Thank you.
What's he playing?
Tackle.
Thanks. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.